A year and a half ago, the largest arc so far within Black Clover began with the entire elf invasion, like everything that we've had. The largest again and craziest ride in Black Clover so far began, and with this chapter, chapter 213, it has finally seemingly come to a close. There's a couple things I really want to go over this chapter in speculation, just because like of the way this ends. And with that, I wanted to like look at it with the reason why I want to go at it towards speculation and not just straightforward. Oh, it's over. That's it. There's nothing going to come out of it. So the chapter begins. Obviously, they left the Shadow Palace. They've all grouped up, and they're exiting. And I really like the convenience of spatial magic and them knowing where the people are being linked up with various ways, similar to I guess not similar, knowingly, of something like Licht and his version of the Demon Dweller sword, connecting people. We saw a little bit extra like level display here. And with that, it didn't drag on. There are some of those times in the series where it's like, okay, the arc is over. What are we gonna do now? Okay, we're gonna like pull out of the arc, cool down and get to the ending point. And they didn't have like a drawn out like area. I really like that because the spatial magic, on all this. They're like, okay, we're gonna get everything like out and done. We don't need to drag on through this arc any further. Everything that is important is over. We're going to be getting towards the nice closure pieces and then moving up towards the next arc. And once they get out of the Shadow Palace, you see like humans and elves still fighting. They're still going at it. They don't know the much more in-depth details over what was going on. And I actually really like because Leona looked like she's just ready to like, okay, cool, let's just do this. Like, we're gonna fight these guys into submission, and then we'll have to explain it to them. But Asta, having the Demon Destroyer sword is like, okay, I have this sword. What am I gonna do? We got this. As long as I got this, then we could figure out a way to save them. But with Patry's very smart. He knows that with him and the combination of William, who's still like sleeping within him, that they can use this to their advantage. And Valtros actually has William's grimoire, and they combine you get this really sick combination where you have Patry, who gives up his spot, switch with William. And Asta, because Asta uses the Demon Destroyer sword to cancel, do his thing, and I almost said end the reincarnation spell within Patry to bring back William. And there's a lot of like questions because there's the fact that William and Patry, they did a lot of things that hurt the situation. Like overall, obviously, like the Patry was the one leading the Eye of the Midnight Sun, really kind of like forerunning all the stuff that happened. And because of him and William, the death of Julius Novachrono happened. And I've had a good amount of discussions with people, talking about like the effects of that. Like I don't like the idea. I don't think a lot of people like the idea of them just kind of brushing the crimes of William and Patry under the rug, like, oh yeah, cool, we won in the end, so, and you were being mind controlled, so we're just gonna want out and everything. The thing is, with Patry's gonna have a lot of weight to what he did. His is gonna be a different story because, he's an elf, he's got a lot of different things, that you would take into factor over this. Plus, he was, again, being manipulated throughout it. Whereas with William knew a lot of this was kind of like gearing up. So he kept this secret from the kingdom, from the Magic Knights. And with Patry, I feel like the fact that the souls of the elves are still going to be, potentially able to come back. And we got a little bit of extra confirmation of that possibility, maybe, like way later along the line. And I just feel like it could be easily one of those things where it's like, okay, cool, Sally is, maybe there's an arc or 2 or 3 or whatever from now. Throughout those, Sally's been working on making, perfecting the ability to make artificial bodies. And then by then it's like, okay, something bad happens, you know, the Clover's getting outgunned, they don't know what to do. And then, you know, it's like we have Sally like, oh, I've been working on this, we can slowly start calling back the elves, they could get these artificial bodies, and you know, they could be on our side, we can call upon their aid. And maybe then we can have, you know, it'd be cool that with that it's like, oh, we're in a bad spot, there's bad guys about to, you know, kill like Asa or whatever, and then Patriot shows up and aids him, and they team up. And with that, it's like there's the fact that Tabata. The reason that I don't just think Tabata is going to brush us under the rug is Tabata seems to plan things out very well. For a weekly shonen manga like writer and artist, I think that's going to be that's probably been like been one of his biggest traits that we've seen so far. Is he's really good at like planning ahead, getting stuff ready, laid out, and you know, foreshadowing things long prior to them actually happening. I can't think of anything about Clover where it feels like he just thought of it like on the spot to fix something. You know, the writers are working again on a weekly basis, and they only get a couple breaks throughout the year normally. And so, like, it doesn't surprise me you might run into some problems, and you know, maybe they forgot something, or they changed their mind, and maybe you know, the plot point that they ended up altering might be a little shaky. Tabata definitely seems like he's got a lot of that under control, at least on his end, which is nice. And so it's if it never gets any form of like carryover effect where, you know, Patry is, you know, he's got to atone for the things he did, then I'll definitely have to chalk that up to something I don't like. Whereas if William in any way is let off the hook, I think that just won't make sense, and I think that'll be kind of dumb, because the gaps between him and Patry is like, Patry obviously, you know, did it all, but he's not human, he wasn't part of the Clover Kingdom, you know, there's all, again, a lot of circumstances, but regardless of, you know, the demon and whatnot, William's allegiance should have been to the Clover Kingdom, and he, even in this situation, like, he had a duty to the Clover. Every single member of the Clover Kingdom, as you know, Julius Novakurno especially, should have brought this up. He shouldn't have kept this for him, because he risked the Clover collapsing for his own reasons, which, again, that he should, in reality, like Patry, get something very severe. Maybe not like execution or like life in prison, but a way that he is very heavily punished. I think maybe something like, oh, you're gonna be in prison, but we'll only let you out in certain circumstances, like you aren't really allowed to go out these set times a year or something, like, and you know, you're anytime the Clover Kingdom needs you, you're gonna go out, there's no exceptions, you know, there's no argument. Like if he becomes almost like I think an easy way to describe, maybe like a Suicide Squad kind of like situation. Maybe we got some other like big criminals, and it's like, oh, anytime that we decided anytime that something happens that, you know, we need to call upon your aid, but we don't know if we can risk, like, you know, important other members, you know, so we'll throw at you. Because we also get Fauna, Raya, and Vito are still here, and I think that's really interesting. I need to go back and look at Raya, because obviously Fauna and Vito, you know, they had somebody else's body, at least at one point. Fauna obviously had a different person also named Fauna, but with Vito, we don't know what, if he had, I don't think his body was artificial prior. I have to go back and look. But, you know, obviously these ones now are artificial. But with Raya, I'm kind of like wondering, like, what does that happen to the person who he was, you know, that body he had originally belonged to, or that the person that the body he's in originally belonged to, or if he's also it's also an artificial. I have to go back and look. I'm not 100% on that. But the fact that, though, you know, you have the members of the Third Eye specifically, they're still here, and maybe they'll end up in the same situation as Patry, or not Patry, as William, where maybe they'll be kept as like special to use prisoners, where it's like you're still gonna be a prisoner, but there's gonna be some ways to make it not totally awful, and you know, if we can use you, we can use you, kind of like situations. I'm really hoping that they don't just brush anything under the rug. Patry again is different than William. William is directly like responsible. The fact that he did that, you know, if he potentially could have had every single person in the Clover Kingdom killed, and who knows what, what else could have happened if the Word Devil ended up getting out of the Shadow Palace, getting away from the clutches of, all these characters that defeated him, and he just got out into the world. How many more people he would have killed? So William for sure needs to have some form of heavy punishment. Again, maybe not death, but like something like you're going to be a prisoner soldier, I guess would really be a good explanation for. I could label the pun on it. But with that, you have William using his great tree magic combined with Lick's ability with the Demon Dweller Sword in its true form. And you get this like union magic, and it can, we know that he's connected to all the elves, so he ends up like making a connection point, this tree of ghostly light, this really nice panel that I'm using. And so, you have all their connection points to this tree. So Asta using the anti-magic sword on it, then sets off a chain reaction, undoes all these elves. I feel like that's the strange thing about that. It's like there's a bunch of elves out there that still don't know the detail. So I'm wondering if maybe like, well, back in Souls, like, will that matter? Like, will there be any elves that might, never find out and, still harbor a hatred towards humans? That's a really interesting question about this. So one thing that I'm hoping is it's addressed somehow, like maybe like, will they turn into souls again and just kind of like float to the afterworld, the afterlife? Maybe like they're able to like communicate telepathically or something because they're souls at that point. Or maybe once they start getting artificial bodies and maybe bringing elves back into, back into Clover Kingdom eventually, they will explain it to them. Like, it'd be really cool if it's like, oh, we have this now, but every single time like we bring an elf back, they're super hostile and we got to explain this to them. So it's like a battle to bring back all these special warriors. Maybe that could be one of the reasons why you can only do one at a time, which would be a really interesting way to have that. Well, not just being like, oh, we now have the our kingdom plus the elves. It's like, no, we can slowly bring back the elves, but we need to bring back like their leadership ones first, and then slowly start bringing back like all the others, one by one, because of the danger if they don't know. That in itself is just a very heavy usage of prior plot and story, and maybe something that, again, like this feels potentially unresolved, but maybe in a way that, like I said, sets up for the future. Because again, Tabata's very good at setting things up and foreshadowing and just knowing where he's going to take some form of plot piece or, foreshadowed element when it finally happens, which is, again, very good on his part. He's a pretty clever dude in that area. Meanwhile, we get further closing out of this. Like I said, Raya, Vito, and Fauna, they're going to keep their body. The only one out of those three that I'm very excited for is Vito. Because Fauna, it's going to be weird that there's two named Fauna. I think that'll be pretty strange. But, we have Fauna in the over in the Diamond Kingdom. We know we've experienced very little because, she's only been in the one arc, because Elf Fauna took over her body, and then finally got defeated, and they had normal Fauna back, and they went back to the Diamond Kingdom. We haven't heard anything about that whole Diamond Kingdom crew since. Raya, I don't know what's gonna really happen with Raya, because with Raya's already OP, and he's keeping us elf side. Like he alone is gonna be like a huge addition to the Clover Kingdom's like firepower until then. I think that would be actually a really good way to. These three together are not gonna hold even close to like Julius Nova Chrono, but Raya would definitely still be a really good asset on the battlefield, because he's pretty much like he's pretty much a captain level. We don't know what he would have been like Marileona going 1v1, just him, because it was 1v5 when she fought him, and she was obviously like losing. Well, not like a raw losing against just Raya, but he was definitely like a contender against her for that point, because of the fact he could use two different magic types at the same time, combine them, and it becomes a much more variety like result kind of magic instead, where it's not just like, oh cool, I can use a fire spell and I could use a lightning spell, and I could hit you with two different ones. It's more like I can use, I think the best one is like, oh cool, I can use spatial magic to make portals all around you and then throw light speed swords at you from all directions. It's much more like that. Or if you had like oh cool, I can use this spell that it's like it fully deletes mass in an area, but it's super slow. But I have this spell that like speeds things up, so I could send these at you, combine them into like an actual like threatening level of pressure on the attack. And like Fauna again, Fauna will be cool. Vito, I think, as a character will be really interesting because he himself he's got probably the least, I would say, the least impressive when you look at it in terms of power. When you know, because Fauna has like super like Phoenix level healing regen fire. You know, as long as she loses part of her body, as long as she's got mana, enough mana back, she'll regrow her body. Again, I already talked about Raya. With Vito, Vito's is very simplistic, but it has a lot of use to it. Like, you know, he's an armor, speed boost. He's got ranged attacks, like straight melee enhancements. You know, with his animal magic, his beast magic. I'm wondering if he's gonna have the mythical beast one or like demonic one that we saw. You know, we had the third eye open. But whereas with him, I'm very interested in because we have, you know, as these younger bodies, he could add as an extra rival to Asta because we know that he's gonna have some memories of Asta, but now he's got this younger version. I think he would make a really cool addition to Mare Leona, to the Crimson Lions, become a member of Mare Leona's crew if as long as she's, you know, maybe says captain. She could end up like leaving after this arc. Maybe Nozzle becomes, someone's gonna be like, it's Nozzle. Eventually maybe I'll concede, but for right now I'm just gonna stick with Nozzle. It could easily have like, Nozzle becomes Wizard King, Flagellaon stays, becomes captain of the Crimson Lions. Maybe Mare Leona either creates her own new Magic Knight Order under her allegiance, or she's like, I lost, I need to go out and train and become stronger again. And either way that she, you know, one of those two paths or whatever she does, I feel like Vita will follow her. Not because like, oh, I want to serve this woman. It's because he probably wants to get a rematch because we know that Mare Leona won the fight between them. They have a very similar, like straight up close and personal, very like animalistic style of like movement and attack, the way that they are. And I think they just have good synergy. I think it would be really cool just to see their interactions further. It's a really good combination, as I said, just because of Vito's rough personality combined with Mare Leona's like way rougher personality, but she's also just this. She's also a human way younger than him, and yet she just is an absolute beast, seemingly trashed him in the fight. He's probably pissed off about it still, and they will have a lot of promise in what they do. I'm very interested in their interactions going on forward. I don't suspect any of them are going to join the Black Bulls. I think that would be like something people will probably predict. Again, I'm hoping that William, Vito, Fauna, and Raya become something like a Suicide Squad unit within the Clover Kingdom. Like, hey, like I said, we're gonna keep you prisoner. It's not gonna be like horrible prison. You're pretty much gonna be under house arrest, kind of like a situation. And if we need you, we'll send you in, and you will either you'll be successful at the mission, or you will die. I feel like in that situation, you wouldn't have pull out and then we'll try again. It'd be like either succeed or die because, you know, we're expendable in a way. So, you know, following that, there was a nice, there was a little bit of an interaction between Yami and Carla. I wasn't too like intrigued by that because with them, it was like they had like a nice dynamic, like kind of like duo situation a little bit near the end. But to be perfectly honest, there wasn't a whole lot there. Like she was just kind of all right in that scenario. It doesn't look like it's seemingly at least like it's going to do anything for Charlotte and her affections towards Yami. Not too heavy invested in that. Like, I'm not going to go over that too much right now, but that's about it. Then we got, you know, Lumiere licked, and they're kind of outing because Lumiere definitely couldn't stay because his body is all messed up now because we know about his backstory, and he's pretty much going off of the magic stones at this point, and there's actually one missing that we lost in the Shadow Palace. So I'm wondering if anyone grabbed that after it fell out of Lumiere's eye socket, and what exactly is going to be that situation. Because I kind of compare to something like the Dragon Balls, like you can again like, oh, the Diamond Kingdom, the Spade Kingdom's attacking. We need aid. Maybe like we don't have it right now, and then it's like, oh, we have gather these people, spatial magic users and like, X amount of people, and they're gonna go look for the magic stones so we can, if we need to, we can bring back Lumiere. I like the idea of Lumiere just being like this last resort, like potential gun kind of character, this weapon, but you have to gather the magic stones in order to use them, and there's a limited time to use within it. I think that's kind of cool. But then we get Licht, the last second Licht and and they're kind of like an interaction because knows, like, he's like, the one inside my body isn't yours, and he gets cut off, and Licht's just like, yeah, I was happy to fight alongside my son, thank you, boy, the 4-leaf clover of today, wish you best luck. And there was the fact that there was no reason really to cut it off and have those, kind of like pause moments with Licht, if it was the fact that, the elf within Yuno's body is his son, because otherwise it'd be like, why not have anything about that go on if it's just, oh yeah, his son's soul is sleeping within you, and then that's about it. Like, we're not going to do anything for that right now. I still believe that Yuno is said son, but because he grew up with humans, he probably just sees humans as, normal people. There's good humans and there's bad humans. And maybe we'll get that later along the line. Maybe it is just like his soul is sleeping within him. Like, I just feel like that would make a lot of sense, and it would be a really cool story piece, because it would add to the like a connection point. Because again, like, imagine like them figuring a way to bring elves back and for artificial bodies. Maybe the elves aren't going to directly trust the humans, and then you have, oh, here is the son of your leader elf and a royalty of the humans. And he, understands like the same thing. Like, yeah, there are more good humans than bad humans, and for the most part, the Clover Kingdom is good humans, and you can have a lot of really nice kind of like touching moments with that, and just kind of good ways to like look at the situation. Because again, it'd be really cool to have that, just to kind of like that very simplistic like fact. But they're not gonna understand. They're probably, some of them are probably still filled with rage, but you have like, who could be this bridge between the two. Because otherwise it'd be like, why keep the soul of said elf child a secret if there wasn't like a surprise to it like that? I don't know. We'll see as is. But then it all ends up, and Asta's like, Asta actually like is getting ready to give the grimoire back, which like I didn't even think too much about until like looking at this page, like during this review, that he was like gonna give again the grimoire back to Licht. Like, he's like, isn't this yours? Like, shouldn't I return this to you? And that would have been crazy, like, if he took it and then Austin would have nothing. You wouldn't have his anti-magic. Like, he would just become like a normal dude again. I guess a normal, very buff dude, and I mean, he'd probably try and figure out something like a way for him to still go. But as it is, like, that moment with Asta, I think, is really heavy, like, just because like this grimoire has done so much for him, and he's just like, if I have to, I'll give it back. Like, it technically doesn't belong to me, but Licht's like, no, it's yours now. Keep it. Don't worry, you're gonna need it along your journey. And I thank all of you for what you've done. So with that, again, looks like the arc is over. I'm going to go do a separate video on the whole Asta trying to get back the grimoire thing, because there's a lot we can talk about this, and this video is already like 20-something minutes long. It's much longer than normal, but obviously this is a closer for an entire arc that takes up over a third of the series, so this was going to be a heavier one. And then we'll go over some of the contents and more discussion videos, like much deeper dive into, like, again, like Patriot's situation, William's situation, potential of what's going to happen after this and whatnot. But for right now, drop a comment below on what you thought about all this. Solid stuff. There's, again, a lot to talk about, a lot to deep dive into. We'll probably go over some of this over the stream on Sunday, but also probably do a couple videos to put out over the next week or so. I'm actually hoping Tabata takes another week off between the two arcs, like this arc and the next one, just kind of give him another breather, kind of get more rested. He's been very overworked. Like, he only took one week off where the magazine was going out. Anytime the magazine was coming out a week, there was a Black Clover chapter until a couple chapters ago where he was just so exhausted he needed a week off. I'd be okay with him taking another week off in between like this arc and the next arc, just to get kind of a little well rested. Other than that, like I said, comment below, press the like button and the subscribe button, thumbs up the video, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.